All right, let's talk about a word you hear all the time, inflammation. And let's be real, it's got a seriously bad rap, right? The second we hear it, we think disease, something we've got to fight. But what if that's not even half the story?
So, let's just get right to it. Is all inflammation a disease? The answer is absolutely not. In fact, it's one of the most critical, life-saving things your body does.
Yeah, you heard that right. It's not a disease, it's your body's essential emergency response team. You can literally think of it as your own personal team of paramedics hardwired to protect you and start the healing process the second something goes wrong.
All right, so let's get into it. Friend or foe? We're going to look at both sides of this coin, starting with how inflammation can actually be your best friend.
So this good guy inflammation has a name, acute inflammation. Think of it like your body's first responders. An injury happens, an infection pops up, and bam, this team is on the scene in a flash. Their mission is super clear. Take out the bad guy, whether it's bacteria or damaged tissue, and kickstart the healing. It's fast, it's focused, and it's 100% beneficial.
Okay, let's use a super simple example. Say you get a little cut on your finger. What happens? Well, first, the skin's barrier is broken. Right away, the alarm bells go off and the response team arrives. You get a surge of blood flow to that spot, bringing in an army of immune cells. They go to work, fighting off germs and starting to rebuild. But, and this is the most important part, once the job's done, the team packs up and leaves. The whole thing winds down.
And you know exactly what this feels like, right? That classic redness, the heat, a little bit of swelling, and yeah, some pain. We tend to think of these as the problem, but they're not. They are the signs, the proof that your body's incredible healing machine is firing on all cylinders, just like it's supposed to.
Okay, but here's the twist. This is where that double-edged sword comes in. What happens when that amazing response team just doesn't go home? What if they stick around?
And this is where the difference between the two becomes so clear. On one side, you have acute inflammation, your heroic first responder. Short-term, gets the job done and leaves. On the other, you have chronic inflammation. This is the lingering threat. It hangs around for months, maybe even years, and instead of protecting you, it starts to cause damage. It's like an army that, wins the battle, but then decides to occupy the city and just tear the place apart.
And this quote from our sources really nails it. This vital defense mechanism can malfunction, resulting in a protracted, uncontrolled inflammatory cascade. That's the key, uncontrolled. The system that's designed to save you is now stuck in overdrive, causing constant, low-level damage.
And we need to be really clear here. This is a huge deal. Chronic inflammation isn't just some minor inconvenience. It's the silent, simmering fire underneath so many of our most serious diseases. We're talking about heart disease, cancer, autoimmune conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes, even neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. The stakes could not be higher.
So, I know this can sound a bit abstract, this simmering fire. But the thing is, your body is probably sending you signals right now. The real trick is learning to listen and understand its language, especially the quiet whispers.
Yeah, chronic inflammation can be super sneaky. It's not always going to scream at you with obvious pain. It might be that feeling of being totally exhausted all the time, or maybe it's mood swings and irritability you can't explain. Struggling with weight that just won't shift? Or what about skin issues that pop up out of nowhere, rashes, psoriasis, or gut problems like IBS or heartburn that are just always there? All of these could be clues that your body's inflammatory response is stuck in the on position.
Okay, but let's shift gears for a minute. Modern science is amazing, but it's not the only way to look at this. For thousands of years, ancient healing systems like Ayurveda have been talking about this exact same process, and their perspective is, well, it's fascinating.
So in Ayurveda, they have a concept called Shotha. Now, it's basically inflammation or swelling, but they see it a little differently. For them, it's a huge red flag that the body's fundamental energies, what they call the doshas, are seriously out of whack. This imbalance, they say, creates blockages in all the body's channels, and that's where the trouble starts.
And this is where it gets really cool and personalized. Ayurveda doesn't just say you have inflammation, it asks what kind of inflammation. It classifies this internal swelling based on which energy is out of balance. So for example, if the problem feels dry and the pain is piercing, that's a Vataja issue. But if it feels hot and there's a burning sensation, that points to Pittaja. It's a much more tailored way of looking at the same core problem.
So you might be wondering, what causes this imbalance in the first place?
Well, Ayurveda boils it down to two key ideas, Agni and Ama. Think of Agni as your digestive fire. When that fire is roaring, you digest food perfectly, you pull out all the nutrients, and there's no waste. But when that fire gets weak and sluggish, you create Ama. And Ama is the sticky, toxic gunk from undigested food. This is the stuff that clogs up your system and basically becomes the fuel for the inflammatory fire.
So if we think of the problem as this stubborn, low-grade fire, then the solution isn't just to pour water on it. It's about changing the whole environment. It's about managing the flame, and what's really amazing is that both ancient wisdom and modern science are pointing us in a very similar direction.
First up, diet. From an Ayurvedic point of view, it's all about stoking that digestive fire, that Agni, by eating fresh, easy-to-digest foods. And it means avoiding the stuff that creates that toxic Ama. And guess what? Modern science completely backs this up. There are tons of research on anti-inflammatory diets that are all about whole foods and avoiding processed junk, sugary drinks, and all the stuff we know isn't great for us.
But it's not just about food, right? It's about your whole lifestyle. Simple things, like having a regular sleep schedule, moving your body in a mindful way, like with yoga. These are cornerstones in Ayurveda for calming the system down. And again, from a modern perspective, we know for a fact that chronic stress and poor sleep are massive drivers of inflammation. So practices like deep breathing or pranayama, they're not just relaxing, they are actively calming your nervous system and lowering that inflammatory load. And then, of course, there are the herbs. Ayurveda has this incredible pharmacy of plants to help out. Now, you've probably heard of turmeric and ginger, right? They're famous for their anti-inflammatory punch. But Ayurveda also uses others like guggulu and punarnarva, which are chosen specifically to help clear out that metabolic gunk, balance the dashas, and just help the body get back to doing its thing. And what's wild is that modern science is now putting these same plants under the microscope to figure out exactly how they work. Which all brings us to probably the most important point of this whole discussion. The goal is not to get rid of inflammation. You can't. You wouldn't want to. We absolutely need that rapid, acute response to heal. The real goal, whether you're looking at it through a modern or ancient lens, is to restore balance. It's about making sure that emergency response team shows up when you need them, but then they go home.
So, want to leave you with a question to chew on. As you go about your day, just think about your lifestyle, what you're eating, how you're moving, how you're sleeping, and dealing with stress. And ask yourself, are my choices fanning the flames of inflammation, or am I helping my body restore its natural balance?